Why is the solar system flat? By that I mean, why do nearly all of the bodies orbiting the Sun lie on the same plane? Why doesn't Earth orbit here and Saturn orbit like this? Why don't they orbit like the model of the atom, orbits in every which way? When the solar system began, it was just an amorphous cloud of gas and dust, with all the particles moving randomly. After the Sun formed, the planets and asteroids accrued into a rough disk shape. If you've been paying attention in physics, the direction of an orbit doesn't matter. Objects can orbit well in most places. So what caused this? Was it some monster squashing down the solar system?
No.
There are actually a few reasons why orbits form into disks. The first and most important is that we live in a three-dimensional universe. If you take any system and add up all its parts' angular momentum, you can find that system's total angular momentum. This top, for example, is fairly obvious. Every piece of this top is spinning about its axis on this plane of rotation. It's the same for our cloud. Although measuring every single piece's angular momentum might be hard, that amorphous cloud must have a plane of rotation. If every piece is moving around randomly, some pieces will be in orbit. They move fast enough to negate the center of gravity's force on them. These pieces will have their own planes of angular momentum and axes of rotation. However, some pieces will not be moving fast enough to stay in orbit. These pieces will fall into the center of mass. The remaining pieces will have wonky orbits, a lot like the atom model from earlier. So how do these pieces form into disks? Well, all these pieces orbiting around the center of mass are constantly colliding with each other. You can think of these collisions as the universe's way of totaling the angular momentum of each object. As each object collides with the other, they cancel out some of the energy with which each object was moving. Certain directions will be canceled out entirely because they have so little momentum. While they collide, one single direction will win out, having the most energy. This direction ends up being the plane of total angular momentum. So, in summation, all orbital systems have an axis of rotation, a center of gravity, and a total angular momentum. Collisions cause objects to do the math, finding the total angular momentum. Any objects failing to reach orbital velocity will fall into the Sun. And that is how orbital disks are formed.